The official term was shelter tents, but everyone called them pup tents. For maneuvers, every GI was issued a half shelter and one tent pole. On bivouac, they paired up. Each man produced his half, and they buttoned them together and pitched a tent for two. Just the two, side by side, in privacy. James Jones tells us what went on in one of those pup tents in his novel, The Thin Red Line, a very slightly disguised memoir of his experiences in the Battle of Guadalcanal, and it was what you would expect. In the stress of combat, Corporal Fife and Private First Class Bede turn to each other. Officially, they are fictional characters, but Jones was a serious novelist who cared about the truth, especially the truth of a soldier's life under combat. He wrote about real people in a real relationship in a real war. And because it is war, the story ends in real tears. Corporal Fife in The Thin Red Line is James Jones. This is Jones when he was 21 years old and a corporal in the Army. He was stationed in Hawaii and saw Pearl Harbor in flames in 1941. Just a year later, he arrived in Guadalcanal as the company clerk of Fox Company. Corporal Fife, his counterpart in the novel, is the company clerk of C for Charlie Company, the novel's version of Fox Company. As company clerk, Fife learned the stories of the company's enlisted men. After he returned to civilian life, Jones transitioned from company clerk to company novelist. In The Thin Red Line, he tells the stories of 60 or 70 men in the Battle of Guadalcanal. No book has ever really been written about combat in wartime with real honesty, Jones told his editor, so I use only those things I have experienced myself and those told me by men in my old company. Private First Class Bede, a character in the novel, is 18 years old, a draftee, still with a teenager's voice and body. He is assistant company clerk, so Corporal Fife is his boss, and they share a pup tent. It is Bede who makes the first move. This is Fife later reminiscing how it all got started. I'm quoting here from the novel. It had started the second night on the island. It was Bede who breached the subject. He had come crawling in at a moment when Fife, already disrobed to his underwear, had been thinking ardently about girls. Fife was embarrassed, but Bede made no comment. However, while he undressed, he began to complain about what a hardship it was for him to be where he was denied the services of women. Well, he was a very horny type, little Bede said, and he needed lots of sex. Anyway, for Bede, the worst thing about this whole war was that, he said, and what the hell could a guy do? Nothing, that was what. Beat it, or do without. Unless guys help each other out now and then. You know, like the things you used together when you were kids in school, he grinned shyly. That was all he said. He had finished undressing down to his shorts. Then he lay down on his own side of the tent and went on talking about girls and whores. Finally, he stopped the talking also. There was a long pause. Then he rolled over to face Fife. Well, what do you say? Shall we help each other out? I'll do it to you if you'll do it to me. Fife had divined what was coming. Nevertheless, he pretended surprise and confusion. But he already knew that he was going to accept. And Bede, finding that he was not rebuffed, now became more confident in his voice and in his salesmanship. Apparently, it did not worry him that he was suggesting something homosexual. But as he started to crawl over to Fife's side of the little tent, he stopped and said, I just don't want you to think I'm no queer or nothing like that. Well, don't you get the idea that I am either, Fife had answered. That was the first time, but there were others. I'm quoting again from the novel as Corporal Fife's recollections continue. There was that first night and the following night, which was the third night on the rock. On the fourth day, the company's tents were found, the pup tents were struck, and everybody moved into the larger 8-man tents. After that, opportunity was lacking. Once, one single time, On an afternoon when there was no work for them to do, they had gone off for a walk in the jungle, knowing beforehand what they were going to do, but not mentioning it, so when it happened off there alone in the massive, high-arching jungle, it seemed to both of them to come as a complete surprise. It had, of course, changed their relationship. Fife, to his own surprise, found himself becoming more and more authoritarian than he had ever dared to be with anyone in his life. He gave him curt orders, cursed him out for the slightest thing, criticized him constantly, insulted him more and more frequently, used him as his perpetual butt. Bede, on the other hand, seemed to understand this, and moreover accepted it, as though he felt it in some way to be his due. He accepted Fife's insults in silence, carried out his repeated orders as best he could, and received his constant criticism quietly, without anger or answering back. And yet all this time Fife was not really angry at him for anything. Bede seemed to know this. Fife knew it too, but his reaction was an emotional response he could neither understand nor control. C for Charlie Company is ordered out on maneuvers. They bivouac, knowing that tomorrow they will be assaulting the enemy position. Fife and Bede are sharing a pup tent again. Fife is trying to get some sleep. Here I'm quoting again from the thin red line. Fife crawled in and lay down, his heart pounding when he suddenly thought about tomorrow. 20 minutes after that, little Bede came crawling in. Fife rolled over with his face to the wall and pretended to be asleep. Bede scrambled in without a word and turned to his own side, ignoring Fife in return. They lay like that for a long time in silence, while the camp settled down around them. Then they lay for an even longer time in the quiet that followed. The air of the tent was stiff with pretended sleep. Finally, Bede moved. He rolled over and said in a harsh voice, "Well, what about it?" Fife made no answer and continued to pretend he was sleeping. "I said, well, what about it?" Bede said again finally. Fife did not answer. "I don't see that either one of us has got anything to lose. Not by now. And it might be the last time of anything for both of us." Bede's voice was hoarse. His breathing was loud in the tent. Fife still did not answer or move, and Bede said nothing further. He had rolled over and was now facing Fife's back. He did not roll back. His breathing continued loud. "I got one on and you do too," little Bede from Iowa said finally, with a kind of fierce honesty. It was true. In a way, that was answer enough. Slowly, Fife rolled over toward him. They were now lying face to face, about a foot between them. Fife could just barely make out Bede's face in the dim light. "Well," Bede said. "Well, what?" Fife said irascibly. "One of us has got to turn end for end." What the hell? Bede had brought him up. Let him do the turning. There was a rustle, and Bede's face disappeared from in front of him. Fife waited. First, Bede's shoes, then his knees appeared in front of his face. That is as graphic as the novel gets. Fife goes into a reverie about a girl he once knew, and this is how Jones lets us know that the sex was completed. The novel goes on. After Bede had gone off into a relaxed, profound sleep, Fife lay wide awake, staring into the darkness. He had given up trying to figure it out. All he knew was that he did not feel guilty about what he did with Bede. He felt he ought to feel guilty, but the truth was that he didn't. On this night, before his outfit went into its first combat, he lay awake a long time, wondering whether he was a homosexual. I hope you're ready for the sad ending. C for Charlie Company gets hit by mortars and Bede is injured, attended by Captain Stein, the medic, and Corporal Fife. Jones writes, "The wounded man turned out to be little PFC Bede from Iowa, Fife's assistant clerk, and he was dying. The mortar round had exploded 5 yards away from him on his left, sending a piece probably no bigger than a silver dime into his left side. Blood was pouring from the hole in the side. Bede's eyes were blank, and he spoke just barely above a whisper. "I'm dying, Captain," he croaked, rolling his eyes toward Stein. "I'm dying. Me. I'm dying. I'm so scared." "Just take it easy, son, just take it easy," Stein said in a kind of fruitless anguish. "Where's Fife?" Bede croaked, rolling his eyes. "Where's Fife?" "He's right here, son, right here." Fife had stepped behind the captain, but now he crawled closer. There were 2 or 3 others clustered around Bede. He had not wanted to look. At the same time, he could not convince himself of the reality of it. Bede hit and dying. Bede, with whom he had worked so many days in the office, in the orderly room, with whom he had, his mind bulked away from that. "I'm here," he said. "I'm dying, Fife," Bede told him. "I know. Just take it easy. Just take it easy, Eddie," he said. He used Bede's first name, something he had never done before. "Hold my hand, Fife," Bede croaked. "I'm scared." For a moment, a second, Fife hesitated. Homosexuality, faggotism, fairies. He didn't even think them. The act of hesitation was far below the level of conscious thought. Then, realizing with horror what he had done, was doing, he gripped Bede's hand. Crawling closer, he slid his other arm under his shoulders, cradling him. He had begun to cry. "I've got it," he said. "Squeeze," Bede croaked. "Squeeze. I'm squeezing." "Oh, Fife," Bede cried. "Oh, Captain." His eyes did not go shut, but they ceased to see. After a moment, Fife put him down and crawled away by himself, weeping in terror, weeping in fear, weeping in sadness, hating himself. It was only 5 minutes after that Fife himself was hit. This isn't the end of the novel. Fife doesn't die, and C for Charlie Company has many battles yet to fight. But many years later, Jones was still remembering Little Bede and the Pup Tent.